Have you ever noticed that God begins history in a garden, but he ends it in a city? In Revelation 21 and 22, when God describes the very end result, the very apex of redemption, he shows us a city, the New Jerusalem. And in the middle of that city is something we haven't seen since Genesis, the tree of life. What is the tree of life doing in the middle of this city? It means that the New Jerusalem is what Eden was supposed to have become. This city is paradise fulfilled. This is the world God told Adam to build, but it took the second Adam, Jesus Christ, to accomplish it. In Isaiah chapter 60, we also see a picture of our final destination, and in that chapter, the prophet gives us a vision of a completely restored created order. And therein, he reveals three amazing future realities. The first is a vision of renewed culture. Isaiah 60 describes the city of God like this in verse 11. Your gates will always stand open. They will never be shut, day or night, so that men may bring you the wealth of the nations, their kings led in triumphal procession. All the wealth of all the nations is streaming into the New Jerusalem for the honor and glory of the Lord. But notice, it's not just wealth in general. Each nation is bringing its own wealth in. Each king of each nation is bringing the cultural products of that particular people to the eternal city. That includes, for example, the ships of Tarshish and the cedars of Lebanon. So, verse 13 says, the glory of Lebanon will come to you, the pine, the fir, and the cypress together, to adorn the place of my sanctuary. And in verse 9 it says, in the lead are the ships of Tarshish, bringing your sons from afar with their silver and gold to the honor of the Lord your God. Now, this is very unexpected. The ships of Tarshish and the cedars of Lebanon being brought into this new city, the city of God. It's surprising because in Isaiah chapter 2, God condemns the cedars of Lebanon and all the trading ships because they were built in prideful self-reliance, they were used militaristically, and yet we see these ships, this cedars of Lebanon, coming and becoming part of the eternal city. What does that mean? It means that even the cultural products and goods of pagan nations, the enemies of Israel, cultural goods that were not made for the glory of God, they were made for the glory of man or even the glory of false gods, these things are nonetheless being brought into the city of God because they are transformed and incorporated into the new heavens and new earth. What does that mean? It means in this new creation, there will still be art, there will still be architecture, there will still be all of these things because we ourselves physically in our resurrection bodies will be there. And therefore, all of these cultural products, though they were made in the city of man, will be transformed and incorporated into the city of God. So our work will not merely be destroyed, but transformed. The final fire that comes at the end of history will not just simply burn up everything so we go off into a kind of spiritual paradise. Oh no. That fire will purge everything. It will purge this world and purify it so that the dross will fall off and the evil will fall off and whatever sinful will fall off and only the good and the pure and the holy will remain and it will become part of the eternal city of God. The second reality is a vision of restored shalom. Verse 18 says, no longer will violence be heard in your land, nor ruin or destruction within your borders, but you will call your walls salvation and your gates praise. This means that human beings, and especially human relationships, will be healed. In the New Jerusalem, no more violence, no more sorrow, no more war. They're all gone. And we see, therefore, that we don't just have a renewed culture here, but a renewed community. Families are together again. Relationships are together. The races are no longer at each other's throats. And yet, each race is bringing its own cultural products into the city. You see what this means? It means the community we've always longed for will be ours. It will be part of the eternal city. And then thirdly, we have a vision of remarkable spiritual intimacy. Verses 19 and 20 say, "The sun will no more be your light by day, nor will the brightness of the moon shine on you. For the Lord will be your everlasting light, and your God will be your glory." Now, this is just like what John saw at the end of the book of Revelation when the new Jerusalem comes down out of heaven and he looks into the eternal city and he sees no sun. John sees no moon. He doesn't even see any lampposts. Because he says, the Lamb of God will be your lamp. Listen how similar John's description of the eternal city is to that of Isaiah. When he says in Revelation 21 and 22, "I saw a new heaven and a new earth. I saw the holy city, the new Jerusalem, coming down out of heaven from God. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, 'Now the dwelling of God is with men, and he will live with them. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away.' The holy city shone with the glory of God, and its brilliance was like that of a very precious jewel, like a jasper, clear as crystal. The city does not need the sun or the moon to shine on it, for the glory of God gives it light, and the Lamb is its lamp. On no day will its gates ever be shut. The glory and honor of the nations will be brought into it. On each side of the river stood the tree of life, and the leaves of the tree are for the healing of the nations." And what's most amazing of all, the entire city is filled with Shekinah glory of God. That's the glory of God's immediate presence. In the ancient tabernacle and temple, that glory was behind the veil. It was in the Holy of Holies. It was away from us because it was fatal to us. Because we are sinners and God is holy. But here, all that's changed. Now we're cleansed. Now we're made holy and made right with God through the righteousness and the sacrifice of Jesus Christ. And now God's immediate presence, we can enjoy, we can bask in it. And whether you know it or not, this glory has been the deepest longing of your heart. And that longing has been very, very frustrated until now. But in the eternal city, it's ours. God's life-giving, intimacy-bringing, joy-creating presence will be the very air we breathe. So here we have a vision of a world completely restored. Our alienation from God is taken away, and we have intimacy. Our alienation from one another is taken away, and we have community. Our alienation from the world is taken away, and we finally have a God-honoring, God-glorifying culture. The universe and everything in it is completely renewed. And do you know why? Because the cross became a tree of death for Jesus. We can have the tree of life. So, the gospel has changed the heart, the gospel has changed community, and the gospel has changed the world. This is the vision that drives us to action. And this is the story of redemption. Right now, we're in our particular chapter, in our time and place. We're seeking to transform hearts and communities and the world. But we're looking forward to that final chapter. And when we get to it, we will find that everything that's ever happened in history, as C.S. Lewis says, was only the cover and the title page. And when we get to the moment that Isaiah is talking about, we will discover that we have come to chapter 1 of the great story, which no one on earth has read, which goes on forever. and in which every chapter is better than the one before.